Greg, Joe Jackson on Type Sportsnet. Thank you so much for the time. Team just gets its first postseason win in over a decade. They come out in after the halftime, having had all those chances. What is your reaction to the way your team came out in the second half and came away with the win?
I thought it was really good execution tonight. Whether that's our pressing, covering wide spaces, or with the ball. I think we made a little bit of adjustment at halftime about trying to get behind them more, trying to put them under pressure. And in the second half, we came out flying again, and we knew we could have an effect on them, a cumulative effect that would wear them down. And didn't think it would come that early in the second half, but thankfully it did.
Tim Hosseman in Red 97. Congrats on the win.
Thanks.
We saw a couple of guys that have been, in and out of the midfield in recent weeks out of it. Brian Gutierrez and Sergio Orhel. What does it mean to have a squad that can have guys like that just be able to fit back into the starting lineup and look as good as they did tonight?
They did a great job, both of those. We switched formations purposely to be more aggressive, more attacking, to press higher. And, we needed them to have big games, Sergio and Guti, and they did. And, together with Davila, Davila was incredible in the midfield, winning balls. And so, I'm a firm believer that you win and lose games with your midfield, and our midfield held their own tonight.
Hey, Greg. Paul Tenorio from The Athletic. I was here 8 years ago when the Fire last made the playoffs in 2017. Result didn't go great, but it was a really fun attacking team. And then they didn't build on it the next year. I know there's a playoff series still to come, and building on it starts on Sunday, but how important is it when you are building something to have a result like tonight, the fans into it, entertaining soccer, getting a win in front of the home crowd, to really convince people that you're building something positive here?
That's our aim. We know it's not going to be done overnight, but we want to, put a product on the field, be a type of club that all of Chicago can admire. And we hope that people will come to the stadium and watch us play. And we hope that it builds excitement across the city. I've lived here for 6 years, that. And I know how big of a sports city Chicago is. And plenty of people to go around. And when you see this type of atmosphere tonight, and just think about that multiplying, getting more and more, and gaining that momentum, it would be great for the club and the team.
Hey, Coach, Alex Calabrese at MLSsoccer.com. Orlando has been a team in free fall, and you managed to do everything you could to beat them in a perfect way. But now you're going to make a very quick transition to playing the Supporters Shield champion. Any thoughts on making such a quick turnaround in 4 days to a completely different kind of team?
I think the rest will help us. Have 3 days, 3 clear days to recover and get ready to go. Philly was the best team in the league this year, right? Indicated by the Supporters Shield. Very good team. I think they kicked our butt the first 2 times we played them. So, I think all we can do is better than that, right? We can't do worse. So, we'll put together some things, and we'll be working the next couple of days to recover and prepare to to go to Philly and play a good game.
Hi, Greg. Carolina Suss of Chicago Sports Nation. Congrats again.
Thank you.
Now, it's a performance, second half and first half were same intensity, but second half, the finishing was there.
Yeah.
You mentioned how effective that second half was. What was that message in the locker room, and specifically to someone like Hugo Kuipers? Did you speak to him at halftime about his work rate was outstanding in the first half, but then in the second half, he found his finishing boots and got 2 goals on the score sheet?
Yeah, the conversation at halftime was obviously very positive. A couple small adjustments and really having to do with how we're gonna attack them. I thought defensively we were very solid, so not much work needed to be done there. And then it was about keep going. We mentioned before the game about focusing on it being a 90-minute game and having that much time to win the game. We don't have to win it in the first minute. We'd love to. But really, it's about how do we wear them down with the ball? How do we get them running? We thought we'd have an advantage there. When I reflect on the game, I think we did.
Alex Campbell from CHGO. Greg, at the beginning of last season, Hugo Kuipers makes a big career move to come here. And then, you see through the 2 years he's been here, the goals he's scored. He's the kind of guy who's, playing full 90s, running like absolute crazy.
outside of just his performance tonight, how have you seen him be a leader and be emblematic of the attitude you want this team to have and the fight you want them to show, and just always being on the front foot and aggressive?
Yeah, that's a great question because, when you look at Hugo, you don't necessarily see this outwardly pushing the team. But what I know about him after working with him for these 10 months is that he desperately wants to win. So he's super competitive. He wants to come here to be successful. And the second thing is that he works tirelessly. He doesn't stop working. And when you add those two things, I mean, it's just such a good example for the rest of the team. And, that's why, our relationship is so strong, because I can count on that every single game. That's what he brings. And, it's really helpful when you have, a guy like that doing that type of work.
Hey, Coach, Jim Alexander with Real Talker. Do you think at some point you guys had a mental advantage coming into this game? In a sense, the crowd was electric, but also some of their players wearing gloves, long sleeves, your guys kind of short sleeves, and just the factor of the weather didn't bother them. Do you think that could have had a psychological effect, like teams bracing for the cold versus your team sort of knew what they were in for, and it impacted what we saw on the field?
I don't know how much of an impact that made, but I'll tell you what, I was looking at the weather all week and hoping it was going to be cold. Really, hoping cold, windy, maybe some flurries. We get that sometimes in Chicago in October. But, I saw them training. They had cut off sleeves and they look all tan, So, we were praying for overcast, cold, and windy, and we got it.
Hey, Coach, congrats on the win. Tomas Moran with 98.3 FM The Life.
Thank you.
Guti gets that first goal, goes into the fans. He's celebrating like crazy, hometown hero. How big of a moment is it for him to get that goal in a playoff moment, considering that he's from the area and it's been so long for the Fire?
Having conversations with Guti throughout the year, it was very important for him for the team to have a good year. He's focused on his personal goals, but he so badly wants his club to be successful. And the conversations were, he really wants to push and do all he can to help the team. And you saw what I really liked about, Guti in this last month and a half is he hasn't always started the games. And you would think that a player would get dejected and lose motivation, but every time he came in, he made an impact. And he kept focused, and he kept being positive and training hard, and that's why he's making the impact he is today because of that.
We'll have two more questions. Tim and Joe.
We talked about the slow start the team had in a couple of games recently. It was the complete opposite tonight. What does it mean about the squad, the fact that everybody came out flying, and you had guys as you talked about, guys like the Hugo Kuipers that came from Europe recently, Philip Zinkernagel, first time in a playoff game like this, playoff situation like this, as well as the number of Fire homegrowns and MLS players that are all working so well together and on the same page, just starting out flying.
It was important. It was important to set a good tone. We talked before the game about having nerves, being stressed a little bit, right? And it's natural. As a coach, I have the same thing. You feel a little bit tightness in your chest, your stomach's a little bit, butterflies. And, and I asked them, do you feel like that? And they said, yeah, they do. And I said, the reason why you do is because you're about to do something important. You're about to do something that matters. And that's a completely normal response when you're in a situation like this. And use that as fuel. Because as soon as the whistle blows, that all goes away. And you have to use that energy that you have to compete. And the boys did that today.
Gregg, speaking of motivation, Jonathan Dean, a former Orlando draft pick who never got the chance to play for them in MLS, COVID and a lot of reasons why, makes a crucial clearance in the 29th minute, then has the cross that sets up the first goal. For him to come in such a way, you bring in competition throughout the year for him, he earns that contract again. To see him perform like that, what does it say about him and just his performance overall?
He's another one that we don't focus on that much because he just does his job every day. He doesn't say much, doesn't complain at all, just works hard. And we've been talking to him, especially at halftime. We said, play forward, get the ball in the box. And the first opportunity he got, he he put it into the box, and that's why he put it in the box. Good things happen, right? So it fell to Guti, and he finished it off nicely. But we've been happy with Dino. He has a new contract now, and he's settled, and he's making an impact with the group.